Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Wednesday's Word of Truth. We're continuing tonight with our series entitled Survive to Thrive. I'm happy to have with us as our guest, Mr. Keith Gamble, originally from the state of New York, but now hanging out around Charlotte, North Carolina. Welcome, Keith. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me, Doctor. It's an honor. It truly is.
Indeed, indeed. Just to give you a little bit of background, I am very, very interested in hearing and having told the stories of individuals whom have had particular trials, perhaps traumas, excessive challenges. But I don't want to end there. I'm excited that you connected with us because you have a story to tell. And generally, my first question that I've been asking our guests is to tell us who you are and how you make a contribution to this world.
Oh, wow. Who I am and how I make a contribution to this world. So for me, I consider myself a spiritual entity, right?
What do you mean by that?
This vessel that you see is just that, right? It's the connection to the all, to the universe that really matters, right? The connections to each other. So who am I? I'm an individual who understands the importance of connectivity in this universe and in this world, and how we can positively affect one another with our interactions, with being open, honest, authentic. Authenticity is key to me, right? I'm a father, right? Father of two. All the other things like worldly things, entrepreneur, all that good stuff, whatever. But how do I plan on affecting the world, or how do I currently affect the world now?
How do you currently impact the world? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's through, I impact the world through my content and through my actual day-to-day connections with individuals, right? Mm-hmm. I tend to learn more than I teach, right? So I try to be observant, kind of look at things from a third person perspective, take in information, analyze it, figure out the whys behind whatever the topic is or whatever conversation that I'm having with an individual. And then when I speak, it comes from a place of truth, right? Within myself, once again, as a spiritual entity, how I understand universal law. And so often I get told that I'm extremely inspiring, and I bring a lot of value to the table that way. And in turn, I believe that's my definite major purpose, right? Inspiring others, pushing people forward, helping individuals realize the true potential that we all hold as vessels on this planet.
You seem to be in an amazingly transformative place in life. And it does surprise me that people tell you that you are an inspiration, because if your presence most of the time is what it is tonight, then I would think that people are touched and even transformed by having engaged you. Oh, there's something that is very, very much so, as you say, a connector that's effusing from you that I'm sure, even the person you're passing in the hallway, is going to sense that there's something different about this man. And you have used a lot of terms that have to do with transformation and your awareness of your presence in this world and your purpose for being here, and how we all, in engaging each other, are yet being transformed just by that engagement. Mm-hmm. And so that talk, you didn't come in this world with that talk, okay? Mm-hmm. You probably didn't grow up, it was a Long Island?
Yeah, Long Island.
You probably didn't grow up on Long Island with that talk, okay? So where did that seminal understanding of your, I'm going to use a term in my field, your existential reality, when did that take root in you enough for you to know it, have the courage to share it, not to mention live it? Mm-hmm. Now, that's a few questions rolled up in there, but I think we can go there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a beautiful question, right? Because I think starting at about 19 years old, I started reverse engineering my childhood and childhood traumas and all that good stuff, right? And realizing
Hold on. Because you put something out there that I think is especially critical to all of us. You said reverse engineering
Yeah,
your
yeah. Our
childhood, your
presence are
trauma.
everything.
Let's talk right there. Let's talk right there,
Yeah,
because so many people are still suffering from the traumas of their childhood, home life, wherever they came from,
yeah,
and perhaps haven't quite caught on to the need to reverse engineer where we've been.
yeah. Absolutely. It's so important. So I grew up Long Island, New York, pretty affluent neighborhood. My grandfather was a math professor. So, brought us there. My mother was one of those individuals, God bless her, but, she was one of those individuals where you meet them and you're like, you knew them from the neighborhood back in the day, and then they grew up and they had kids and you're like, oh, she had kids? Like, it was like oh, okay, all right,
Right.
type of situation. So with that, I grew up around very toxic environment. I like to say I came from the darkness, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I saw a lot of things at an early age that, 2, 3, 4, my formative years, my early years that, no 2, 3, 4-year-old should ever have to deal with,
Right.
And then, growing up, I always had my values, right? Like I always spoke for myself, stood up for myself. I was always very confident in who I was as an individual, but I would do it through the lens of my family's approval. Does that make sense? Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I grew up, by the time I got out of college, I realized that, your parents are human too, right? And no one's perfect, right? And personality traits are built. Certain things are built from your formative years and are instilled in you that kind of can snowball into the next generation, the generation after that, so on and so forth, right? So I came to the realization that I was raised by a narcissist, right? Like a heavy one. And then realized that like it was a trait that carried out throughout my whole family, so there's multiple generations of this behavior. And, I knew that it was opposite of who I wanted to be. If I wanted to be a connector, if I wanted to use my gifts, I couldn't just think about self. I couldn't possibly look at myself and think that I do nothing wrong, right? So what type of traits did I bring to the table that, or that were given to me at my early years, can I reverse and kind of take out of that? So one thing was like talking really loud. Like I used to just center of attention, be in a room, like, bah, cursing a lot. I used to curse a ton, that was a New York thing, obviously.
Now, were these some things that were pointed out to you, or you did a sense of self-inventory and honed in on these traits yourself?
So from what I understand, my personality type is INFJ, according to the MBT scale.
Mm-hmm.
So I my favorite place to live is in my head, So anytime I can just sit alone in this very room or be out in nature and just in my thoughts, in my mind alone, I'll go, if I could, I'll go days without talking and then not realize until I open my mouth and I'm like, talking to somebody on the phone and, it's like, oh, wow, I haven't spoken in 2 days. So it's all introspective. It's all, intuitive natured and me looking in at myself for the most part.
I find it fascinating because I do think that we have a series of new birth or new incarnations throughout this, what we call this portion of eternity.
Yeah.
And it sounds to me like you have had at least 1 or 2 new incarnations. And the reason I use that term incarnation is because I believe that there is a God spirit who literally, perhaps we may permit, or that God spirit will infiltrate, our circumstance and prompt us to move to a place where we have to make a change.
Absolutely.
So it can be one whereby you very gradually, come to know, okay, it's time for me to live my life different.
Yeah.
Or it can be one whereby the spirit of that which is eternal simply says, look, I'm coming in, and it's time to do something different, you call it re-engineering.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think oftentimes what happens is, I think that prompting comes, but we're so quick to ignore it. We're so quick to not acknowledge that. It's kind of like, there's a push in the back, or there's a slap upside the head. Most people do well with the slap upside the head, which, is manifested by a glaring life tragedies. Okay.
Sure.
I do think that there is God's spirit who just takes us and says, look, you know better, and you can do better. And then if you hear that, then you're willing to then turn around and ask how. And I think, and I don't want to put words in your head, but this is just my own sense of a feeling that
Sure.
that you were able to ask how and listen for instructions, maybe.
I'll tell you that my spiritual awakening is relatively recent, right? I always knew that there was a larger purpose to all of this. I didn't necessarily subscribe to religions just because of the foundation of how religions work when you, once again, reverse engineer it. It just didn't fully sit well with me, right? But I got into meditation, right? And I got into working out, and, to be completely honest, taking some psilocybin, kind of opened up my thought processes. Over the course of time, I was able to tap into my pineal gland, right? Without any type of, accelerant, no psilocybin, anything, just, first thing in the morning, meditate, the right music, let it flow through me. I'll get a moment to myself, eyes closed, and before you know it, there's shapes and colors and everything else dancing in my head, and the messaging that comes through it, and these portals that open up to different aspects of the universe, to the point where, I had one experience where I feel like I could have potentially shifted dimensions in a way. Like literally the whole format of the city changed for me in like a week's time. I realized that when I used to make a left here, I'm now making a right, like it's very strange little nuances. And with that type of like connection, and on a spiritual level, I realized that, oh man, I did it again. So sometimes I'll talk and try to get to a point and forget what point I was trying to make,
It happens to be quite often. We're good. We're patient. We're patient. It's going to come back to you as we move on with this
Sure.
next question.
Sure.
You've done amazing work to get where you are in this incarnation. In the context of, let's say, culture, tradition, what were obstacles? I mean, because to think other than can be challenging for others.
Sure.
So what were obstacles that even at the point where you decided you were going to re-engineer your past? I mean, change does not come easy. There's always resistance to change. And we can have that within ourselves, and certainly those around us who say they love us and care about us, and perhaps they genuinely, authentically do.
Yeah.
But to a certain extent, as long as that what we're doing is it within the confines of their ability to understand and to grasp and to be comfortable with. So I would suspect that you ran into some push, some press from external, even some internal.
Yeah. I mean, the majority of pushback is internal. Second guessing. Well, when you say internal, do you mean like internal within self or within like internal nucleus? So,
well, I would say both, but more so, I think that there, unbeknownst to us, sometimes there is that internal resistance as well, and we can't figure out why we're not making progress.
Sure. So yeah, for me, first and foremost, like I said before, I've always been someone who's steadfast in their thought processes. I'm, pretty sure of myself whenever I make a decision that it's a decision that I understand the consequences to it, so on and so forth. And over the course of my years, just living on this earth, you realize that perspective and empathy go a long way towards how people engage with you and see you, right? It always helped, you know, early years in high school. I was an athlete, band geek. I hosted the talent show, you know, captain of this team, that team, whatever. So people really didn't question my thought processes. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it was never really an issue for me to be authentically me, because
Perhaps
you
what
know,
some folk would consider different.
yeah. I think I'm more considered different now than ever in my life.
Really?
You know, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
honestly. You know, it's funny, you know, I do my best to grow and learn every day,
Mm-hmm.
right? To never be stagnant, to always want to better myself, better the situation for not only me, but my family, you know, the people I care about, the community. I'm huge in wanting to pull up the community and teach people and show people different ways of accomplishing their goals. Especially when I get a chance to partner with the subject matter expert, you know, such as yourself, and, you know, have them speak to the people, but curate that space to allow that to happen, right? Because this is what helps me grow, right?
Yeah.
You know, you want to network up, right? And, you know, kind of like, you know, network upwards, but then at the same time, reach back in order to pull people up with you, right? So with that concept in mind, I didn't receive too much external pushback on pretty much anything I do. I was talking to my business partner a couple months ago, and, you know, we were talking about how many no's do you get, you know, in business. And she was like, man, I've gotten so many no's and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, that's my problem. I haven't had one yet, you know?
Really?
It's like, so just, it's just an interesting.
So not you haven't had any no's yet. Okay. But who did you lose along the way? Or who did you have to lose along the way?
Oh, well, a lot of people. Oh man, I've let go of a lot of energies that just didn't vibrate on my frequency anymore, or that pulled my frequencies down, you know, including my own family. Not in a malicious way. It's just, hey, I love you. You know, I love you. I'll be here and everything else, but, you know, you won't find me at your house every Saturday. It's just, you know, I just can't do that. And there's people I grew up with, you know, that, you know, over the course of time, it fell off, and it is what it is. I mean, it's part of the journey, right, of growth. Because a lot of times people don't want to be pulled up, right? Or people don't want to reach back and help either, right? Because there's, okay, one thing that's consistent in the universe is energy, right? And energy can't be created nor destroyed. It can only be transferred, right? So when you think of the universe, right, what I call universal law as energy that's free flowing, and we are energy in ourselves, right, at our core. There's light energy and there's dark energy, and both, although extremely powerful, harness their power from two different sides of the spectrum, right? Dark energy harnesses it through pain and anger and fear and angst, and if you can harness that pain, it becomes intoxicating, which makes you powerful, right? And then you have light energy, where it's the opposite, right? It's warm, it's welcoming, it's, you know, being introspective, looking at things at a total picture and understanding how it all fits so you can operate in harmony, right? So
in that sense, you don't need power.
No, because you are power. You are pure power, right? Like you are this energy, this life force, right? So when I found myself around a lot of dark entities, certain entities I was around was dark, and it was holding back my journey towards light, I had to let it go.
Destructive power. Sort of.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But, you know, now I'm a lot more balanced, right? I can harness dark energy if I need to. I love light energy, right? It's literally how I live my day-to-day life. But I feel energies like literally physically, if I'm around people, very strong people. So when I'm in a room full of dark energy, I can't just crumble because it hurts, right?
Stand your ground, yeah.
Not only stand my ground, but I have to learn to be able to operate through it, right? Like effectively. and to understand their thought processes. So my major hiccups, even in business and in life, especially in business as well, is dark entities do not have the same business values that I do, like at all.
That's the truth. That's the truth. And knowing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, understanding that, that's, once again, those are the type of energies that I kind of, I handle with care, more so than just light energy, because those frequencies are aligned with mine, so I can be more open.
Yeah, that's interesting. I work in an extremely politically charged environment, and every day, all day, I have to remind myself who I am and why I'm here.
Yes.
Because my purpose is so counter to most of whom surround me.
Yeah.
And so I have to constantly bring myself back to center and remind myself, as the Old Testament scripture says, why I've come to the kingdom for such a time as this. I have to constantly remind myself. Tell me, if you will, go ahead. Did I cut you up?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, what helps me in those moments when I start to lose myself? I shut the world off.
Yeah, you have to.
I don't care. I literally, I'll come in the house, I'll put my phone on do not disturb, give me a day or two for me to be in my thoughts and to recharge, meditate, and relax. So then, then I can be ready. I can be my whole self again to move forward.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very important. That's right. To be able to pull away, to find your space, your quiet, and find your center. Yeah, we have to recharge, literally, because it's really, we are battling dark forces in many instances. And that, any battle can weaken us, and we have to recharge, replenish.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just the nature. Have you ever felt, as you've been on this journey, and I don't think this is the first time you've been on this journey, perhaps in another incarnation, this is probably like the continuation of a journey. Have you ever felt like you wouldn't make it?
Wouldn't make it? What is making it?
Did you ever feel as if you would not transcend, that you would not be able to move beyond where you have been? Did you ever feel like the weight of was so heavy and so connected that you could not disconnect from in such a way that you would not be where you are right now? Was there a time where the pull was just so great?
Yeah, it would, definitely when I was younger, right? When I was younger, so one thing, one story I'll share with you real quick. When I was in 7th grade, I mistakenly burned myself right here on on a lampshade, right? So the lampshade was off, and I reached over to grab a cord and I burnt myself. That same week, I had happened to make an illustration, a dark illustration of sorts in school, right? So my mother, being my mother, saw the burn and the illustration and said, oh, he's got issues, self-mutilation, whatever. And I ended up in a psych ward, right?
How old were you again?
I was in 7th grade. So that would have put me at 12?
12, 11, yeah.
12?
Yeah.
So I ended up in a psych ward up in New York. And, my first go around at the psych ward was one thing, right? And it took, I was able to see people who really felt like they would give up, like they wanted to give up. People that really struggled internally in their minds and in their spirits, fighting these demons within that didn't allow them to push forward in society the way that I could.
You were only 12 years old, but yet you were able to discern these types of struggles at the age of 12. How were they different from your struggle?
So my struggle at the time wasn't anywhere near on the same level as them, right? Because, I wasn't self-mutilating, right? I wasn't in this space, right? I was just kind of placed there. It allowed me to kind of, hey, I got a couple weeks vacation here from school. Might as well, engage with these folks and see what this environment's about and get to know these people and everything else, and just sitting in those counseling sessions and seeing how they operate and the struggles that they had,
I need to back up a little bit. You're 12 years old. You're in a psych hospital. You don't need to be there.
Sure.
And yet you were able to turn that context in your favor.
Yeah.
I find that fascinating. For a 12-year-old, I would suspect most 12-year-olds would have been so frightened, feeling so abandoned.
Oh yeah, I felt that was my first like taste of abandonment issues when it came to my relationship with my mother. That was like the first time I kind of realized like, oh, like I'm here because she wants me here, you know, and like this is part of her plan because no matter what I tell her, you know, as far as my perspective, it didn't matter. I was going, you know.
So this was a turning point for you.
This was
not something that you certainly wanted, but the reality of it.
No, I wouldn't call it a turning point because at the time, you know, I was still in that age and point in my life where she could do no wrong.
I see.
Right. But but that's the time where I started kind of like questioning. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right.
It does.
So yeah, my turning point didn't happen until a couple years later.
When was your turning point? When was your turning point?
Oh man, probably my senior year of high school was a good turning point for me. And then definitely my freshman year of college. Like after my freshman year of college and me dropping out, there was no looking back. Like I knew for a fact I had to get that out of my system, that type of energy, those type of personality traits and all that stuff. So high school, it was just these little nuanced things. I realized that like if I had a playoff football game and my biological father was going to be there, she'd make a big scene before the game and curse me out and tell me that I ain't this and that because he's coming and he ain't nothing. And, you know, I'm using very mild language.
Right, I'm sure. Yeah.
So, you know, felt that pain and harnessed that pain. And then, you know, prom, same thing, graduation, same thing. So all these major events, my youth, my senior year, my mother was never really there for it. There's not one picture of us, you know, probably period, that whole year together, even though I lived with this one.
Were you an only child?
No, I'm one of three.
Okay.
So
and where are you in the sibling order?
Yeah, I'm the middle.
The middle, okay.
Yeah. So then I went to college. I went to Grambling State. I was doing well there.
Were you in the Grambling band?
No.
I was gonna say if you were in the Grambling band. Okay, all right.
I'd hear them rehearse every morning, but no, I wasn't there. I tried out for the football team and all that good stuff. But yeah. But yeah, I was carrying about a 3.36 GPA. I was about to pledge. Things were going well. And I received a phone call from my mom during finals week that my sister had died on the operating table during a brain surgery, right? But they had resuscitated her and she's stable right now. That hit me to my core because my baby sister was like, you know, I was always there for her, you know, because she had pseudocerebral tumors from the time she was in elementary school up until her senior year of high school, right? So when I heard that news, I was like, well, there goes college. Like, I forget that. I'm gonna move to Charlotte so I can be next to my sister, you know, and be with my family. When I moved out there, when I dropped out of college, I figured out it was all a lie, right? And that
never happened?
Never happened that way. Never happened the way it was discussed to me, told to me, nothing. So right then and there, I knew, yeah, enough was enough and I'm gonna separate myself totally. So I was here in Charlotte for about 4 to 5 months after that. Then I moved back to New York with a couple of my friends and we rented out a house. So I spent like the better part of my early 20s living on my own in New York with some friends and really finding myself before chasing a woman back to Charlotte, right?
Let's talk about Charlotte. What's going on in Charlotte?
Charlotte, man. Oh, I love this city. I truly do. Each city breathes. Where are you guys located? Where are you located?
I can't say.
Sure. Each city breathes, right, a different energy.
Right. I'm in the DC metropolitan area.
Okay, cool. So I know if I go to DC metropolitan, everybody's talking about politics, right? It's toxic as hell to me, right? It's not good for me. I don't need to be there. It is what
But
it
we have
is.
great restaurants.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, you definitely do. My aunt is a professor at George Mason.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, Charlotte, it's energy of the city. It breathes unity and growth and pulling one another up, because it is,
Really?
yeah. As of
Has it always been
year,
that way? I mean, within the past 20 years, more of a mecca for folk just flocking to Charlotte? Has it always had that kind of spirit, or is that a relatively new
I've been
thing?
here, right?
Okay.
So my family's been out here for about 20 years.
Okay.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
my aunt moved out here during like the whole migration of the financial industry
Mm-hmm.
from Manhattan to Charlotte.
Okay.
And took my grandmother with her, you know. And I've been out here for 10 years, right? Like this stint, right? So
Okay.
10 years now, 10, 11 years. So with that, my experience with this city has always been togetherness and growth, and that entrepreneurial spirit and that mindset, and a true sense of community. I love Charlotte. It's allowed me to do things and meet people and be in situations, be in rooms that I don't think I would have been in if I stayed in New York, honestly.
Right.
It's a second fastest growing city in the Southeast as of a year ago. I don't know what the stats say now, next to Tampa.
Right.
And it shows. A buddy of mine said, if you were to paint Charlotte skyline, make sure you include the cranes,
Oh, okay. Right.
So I love Charlotte. One day I want one of those cranes to be building my skyrise with my logo on the top of it.
Yes, indeed. Talk about where you want to go. Where you going?
Oh man, I would love to be so connected with the all, with this universe through my spiritual journey, to be able to literally go and do whatever I want to do, not even on this planet, if I could, if I could separate my spirit and move somewhere else and have conversations with entities to understand the whys, or, be in a space where I can be a part of that fold in time, and, be somewhere else at the same time. That would be amazing. All these things are possible, right? I feel, when you look at ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt, and all that they were able to do and accomplish and see and operate. You look at people like, Hiroshua, or, Muhammad, or any of these people that truly got into a point of enlightenment where they were performing seeming miracles, but really it's the actual natural and true form of what our spirit and our body is capable of doing, that has been suppressed over tens of thousands of years at this point. I'd like to break through that, that's where I'd like to go.
So I have a question.
Yeah, please.
If you could talk to your 12-year-old self, and you can talk to your 12-year-old self.
Yeah.
Who was going through that experience of the psych ward, the whole thing. What do you have to say to him?
Man, you get it. Right. Mm-hmm. And don't doubt yourself. You got it already. It's already in you, mm-hmm. So if you knew that these certain entities and all this stuff, don't fall for the okie doke, right? Just because it's, there's people around you that you can't avoid, right? And, they're your family or whatever the case is. Continue to stand 10 toes in who you are. I would like my 12-year-old self to have a little bit more work ethic, sure. I'd like my 12-year-old self to try to be a better athlete, because those scholarships would have been running in much quicker at the age of 18 or 17. But who cares about all that, right? It's all about, it's all about this.
You're an amazing human being, and I am honored that you have chosen to share your truth with us. There are so many people who need to hear your story and need to hear your journey. And I'm telling you, that term, re-engineering my past, re-engineering my trauma, I really want to work with that, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, please do.
I think that there are so many people who do not understand that they have the power to re-engineer their past, wherever they've been, whatever they've come through, in such a way that past, that trauma, whatever it is, no longer lords over their present and or their future. Your story has blessed me. I'm sure your story is going to bless everybody who listens to our time together. Thank you. I am grateful that you survived. You didn't only survive, you chose to thrive.
I appreciate that
I honor you and I bless you, and I am grateful you chose to share with us tonight. Do you want to give us some?
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Just thank you for having me on today. It's been a true blessing. I was excited as soon as, this kind of came across as an opportunity. And yeah, I was going to say this one thing on that, the whole reverse engineering or re-engineering, it's transferable to every skill in your life.
It is.
It doesn't have to just be traumas. It can literally be, anything, the way that you are in your relationships, both personal, friendship, whatever the case is, your job, the people you come in contact. It's really a great tool to really spend time with yourself and kind of break things down, from where you're at to where it came from, and then where you want to be, and figure out the trajectory for that. So
it takes time, it takes commitment, it takes an investment, it takes a desire to want to show up differently in this world. And one of the challenges, and I'm trying to wrap this here, but see, now you got me at a point that's really sensitive for me.
I'm sorry.
One of the challenges that I constantly encounter is that many of us say we want to change. We say we want joy. We want to say we want contentment. We say we want happiness. But the bottom line is, at the end of the day, you got to put in that work. Because in so many instances, there's so much that we have to undo. You have to, how shall we say, uncreate in order to recreate. And it takes work. It's like the discipline of an athlete. And you know that. Whatever we do in here is going to show up out there.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Every time.
Yeah.
Every time.
My brother, I salute you. I send blessings your way on everything that you do, that they prosper, that everything that you touch turns to gold.
Oh, thank you. That means so much.
Receive that. Stay in touch. Stay in touch.
I will. Thank you so much. You and Miss McDuffie, thank you so much for this time and your energy.
Thank you.